Hey, you guys. So, let's talk about what healthy masculinity is versus toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. With toxic, I'm talking about hate and contempt. And with healthy, I'm talking about being relational, inspiring, lifting people up. And some people seem to think that's weakness. Some people think that helping people is weakness, but it's only weakness if you're fawning and don't have good boundaries. Helping people comes from strength. So, some examples are like, how Kevin Samuels would put women down. They would call in and he'd be like looking for any flaw. And then when they gave him a vulnerable answer, like their weight, he would turn it around and throw it in their face and ridicule them for it. That's contempt. That's mean. That's nasty. And A. Tate using his, controversial misogyny to get attention. Healthy men don't destroy people or are angry to get attention. So I just want to call out that's toxic masculinity. Toxic femininity would be these angry women like AOC or Amber Heard, Meghan Markle. They destroy. Now let's talk about some healthy masculinity. Healthy masculinity is protects, provides, focuses, inspires, leads, creates. Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Chris Williamson, Brett Weinstein, Healthy Gamer GG, Coleman Hughes. And notice that Healthy Gamer GG is a short Indian guy with no facial hair, married with children. Coleman Hughes, 22-year-old, 5'2", skinny black guy, masculine, masculine as fuck. Um, I'm going to invite you in the comments to leave examples of other men that you consider to be healthy and inspiring, because the number one podcaster in the US or maybe the world is Joe Rogan. If you can compare him to the A. Tate and K. Samuels, Joe Rogan never puts people down. He's calm, he's strong, he listens, he teaches, he inspires, he collaborates. And so many people follow him. I consider him a great male role model. He doesn't get reactive, he's calm, he's centered, he's grounded. And from that grounded heart based strength, he can go out and not only make his family happy, but make the whole world happy, a better place. I think that a lot of men who follow these toxic men for two reasons. One, it's the first time they've seen a strong man. Maybe their father was very weak or they had no father, and they become in touch with their strength, and they haven't been exposed to these other kinds of men, and they're not able to pick up on the cues that I, as a 60-year-old woman, mother of two boys, masculine boys, men, my sons are masculine men, things that I pick up on as a woman as dangerous. Like the women that would date those men have, in my opinion, come from trauma and abuse. I would not date these men that belittle other people. That would be a huge red flag. I probably wouldn't even say hi to them on the street because I would just I would just feel their anger and contempt. So I'm just here to kind of wake you up. The second reason would be they hate women, and these men are kind of like resonating and amplifying their own hate for women. And that hate for women can come in, oh, good, I'm glad he's putting these women down. Women deserve to be put down. Women have hurt me. Or I have to be guarded against women because women could hurt me. And I think some of that could hurt me has to do with our court system and the lack of infrastructure in our country for families and for women. One thing that the manosphere doesn't seem to talk about, when it comes to children, they talk about you should avoid women with children. But I never hear them talk about raising children, parenting, loving children, supporting moms. I never hear these manosphere guys talk about moms. Moms and dads, the role of parents. I don't hear them talk about that. And the reason that a lot of men are so worried about marriage in the US and a lot of women are called hypergamous is because our countries in the US, the support, social support for moms is shit. It's shit. See, in Germany, where I'm from, women get like a year of paid maternity leave and childcare paid for high quality childcare. You can keep working as a mother or stay home because the state supports you. They support families and they support mothers. And when mothers are supported financially, the way they relate to men is completely different. And there, no one ever talks about that. And I want to thank this gentleman who left some comments on one of my other videos. He's from Norway, and he was puzzled by, he had just found out, he's trying to make sense of the red pill movement. Like it's a thing he can't understand. And the reason he can't understand is because Norway has a huge they don't invest in 835 military bases. They're not current. The US is currently fighting 7 wars. They're not fighting wars. Their money is used to make the lives of their citizens better in the healthcare, in the support for people who aren't working, in the support of families and mothers and children and education, healthcare. And when a society has its basic needs met for, they don't have to have all these strategies to protect themselves. So if I, as a woman, want to have children, the hypergamy thing is cultural. Like this man was saying, in Norway, we view sex very differently. We view relationships differently. And his girlfriend asked him out. They pay unisex. They both pay on dates. Because a woman doesn't need a man to provide for her, so she can treat him as an equal partner. They each pay, they each do the housework. But see, if I know as a woman that, and I always felt this from a very young age, if I know as a woman that when I have children, I have to put my child in childcare. Do you know how much it costs to put a baby in childcare? I think it's like $800 or $1,000 a month for an infant, and a lot of women can't even afford that. Like how many people that like, by the time they pay rent and childcare, they don't even have money for gas, so why even work? But if I know that, and women intrinsically know that we're helpless when we're pregnant and have babies, we already feel that, like, I'm going to be helpless with this baby. I need a guy to provide for me, hypergamy. So when women weren't able to work, before the female revolution, and when women couldn't work, they had to get a successful guy because they couldn't provide for themselves. And after they have babies, they can't provide for themselves. They stop working. When they divorce him, they need his money because they haven't worked. Because the state, we're using our money for wars instead of for families. Whether you agree or not, it changes people's behaviors. So a woman has to pick a man who can provide and who can be loyal because she needs him to provide for her and her children. Whereas if I'm in Norway, this is what I'm thinking, and I know that no matter what this guy does, I'm taken care of as a mother. I can nurture my baby because I'm being nurtured. The best thing you can do for a young mom is to nurture her, because it takes a lot of nurturing to nurture a baby and a child, especially if your child is fussy. And all my kids were fussy. So if I know that the state is providing, then I don't need a guy with money. I can marry any guy. A guy with less money, it doesn't matter, because I don't need him to provide for me when I have a child. So, and then a guy doesn't have to worry about marriage or no marriage, and they don't have to get married, because the woman knows, if we separate, I can get help from the state. Not as in, I am going to just be a lazy bum and live off the state, but as in, the society I live in cares about families. The society I live in cares about its people, not just about the elites expanding their power overseas. It really changes the incentive structure. And I think a lot of what women go through here is based on the fact that we're on our own here. unless you're like super low income that you qualify for Medicaid, your health care, you don't have health care. And education is exorbitantly expensive. When I went to college, people could work their way through college. I think it was $600 a semester at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Now, who can afford to work their way through school anymore? To buy a house? The Fed has printed so much freaking money and lowered the interest rates to zero to the point that it distorted how people invested their money. Hedge funds, companies, pension funds, instead of investing, even companies, instead of investing in expansion, capital expansion, research and development, they started buying stock, doing stock buybacks to enrich themselves. Instead of using money to make infrastructure or invest in the education of our people, we use that money for wars. We use that money for um, well, enriching special interest groups. And the money found its way into distorted things like, why are hedge funds buying houses? That's a distortion. Driving up the prices of houses, because if the rate of return is 0%, where are you going to put your money? And people don't want to invest in this country anymore. They're investing in other countries. Like, why aren't we talking about that stuff? And because the cost of housing is so high, it's harder for families, it's harder for a man to support a family anymore. And there's no social safety net for people. A lot of people are having trouble paying rent now. They're going up 20-30% a year. Why is that? Oh, and let's not forget our political leaders have wiped out the definition of what a recession is. So we're just going to play word salad and not talk about the real issues. But getting back to relationships and dating, these factors for how we live as a society have a huge incentive in how people pick their partners. And if I know that a woman divorcing me is going to cost me half of my investment in my work and my career, I don't want to marry her. And I'm going to have a bunch of guards up against her, hypergamy and her body count and her this and her that, because, hey, I'm on my own and I got to protect myself here. But if you're in a country like Norway where people actually trust each other, I think, tell me if I've got this right, trust each other, and the you're paying your taxes towards a social system, not towards fighting wars overseas. And you can feel relaxed and you don't have to protect yourself. You can actually be more relational. So it changes how people date and how people see the opposite sex. And I think that is a very interesting society. I kind of like, I want to visit Norway and see this firsthand. They also have much different sex education for young kids. They don't have all these taboos around sexuality that we have here. So it's very interesting. I asked him if I could interview him for my YouTube channel, him and his girlfriend. So if he does, I hope he does. Or if any of you are watching this and you're from a country other than the US where dating is very different, and you never heard of the red pill and all of that, I would love to interview you for my YouTube channel. So just send me an email, and sharzadmorgan@gmail.com. Just send me an email. sharzadmorgan, as in this channel, @gmail.com. I would love to interview you because I just think that's fascinating. Anyway, oh yeah, other male role models. Look at this. Just these people whose books I read. Pete Walker, who wrote this book, he's helping people. Eckhart Tolle. Now I'm going to say, okay, some of these men are more feminine. I think Pete Walker is feminine. I think Terry Real is feminine. I think Eckhart Tolle is feminine. Some of these guys are very feminine, but the ones I told you at the beginning of my video are men that I consider masculine. They emanate to me more masculine energy. I think some of the men who are more in the counseling space can be more feminine, but I don't know. I like my guys really masculine, but I like them to be like honest and uplifting and from the heart. That to me is super hot. Thank you for watching my video.